Hey everyone, I'm Andrea. Welcome to Karchermakes, and today I'm talking all about quick and easy baby knits. I'm going to a baby shower tomorrow, so I can finally share with you guys all the things I've been making for the newest addition to our family, a great nephew who is going to be born in mid-spring. Now, I've known this baby was coming since the end of September, beginning of October, and time got away from me a little bit. I finally realized that if I'm gonna make stuff for this baby, I need to get started, and it needs to be quick patterns, easy things to make so that I can get them done in time. Because the baby is due to be born in mid-spring, it gets a little warm here during that time of year. So I wanted to make things that could be easily sized up so that when autumn and winter roll around, the baby would be able to wear them and hopefully wear them for that full season. I really don't want to make things that can only be worn one time. I really want these to be pieces that the parents can put on the baby, enjoy, and really get some longevity out of. So before we talk about what I chose to make, let's first start with the yarn I made it from. This really drove my decision-making process for what projects I wanted to make and what patterns I wanted to use to make them. So I started out with some DK weight yarn that was left over from my dyeing days, and I dyed this from Dharma Trading Company. The colorway of the dye is called Silver Sage, and it's just this really pretty light muted green. And mom and dad, when I asked about colors, they said any greens, all greens, muted greens, nothing too bright, nothing too dark. And I think this fits the bill perfectly. I'm choosing to pair this also with just some bare yarn. That was easy enough, and I feel like it gives enough contrast to the green that it works. When it came to selecting patterns, that honestly took the most time of the process. I feel like I looked at patterns longer than it took me to actually knit the items themselves. So I knew I wanted kind of like a layette. I wanted a sweater, a hat, socks, and then a blanket. We'll talk about the blanket later. That was neither quick nor easy. So there's a ton of free baby knit patterns out there. Ravelry is a wealth of information for that. Even if you're not on Ravelry, just Googling free baby knits returns so many different results. What I chose to go with, though, is this French Macaroon pattern from Caro in the city. And it is just so cute, so adorable. I did share this on one of my other episodes as a whip, but here it is all finished. And like I mentioned, I paired that green yarn with this bare yarn just to give some contrast and interest to the sweater. And I think it's adorable. So this pattern's free on Ravelry, and it uses size US 5 needles, which when paired with the DK weight yarn and this garter stitch, it lends itself to just be a nice, squishy, cozy fabric that is perfect for a little baby knit. The pattern itself was fairly simple. It's just knit from the bottom up, and then when you change colors, you cast on more stitches to get the sleeve. You complete the sleeve while binding off for the neckline, and then you basically repeat that all over again for the second piece, for the back. And then you seam it together, and the shoulders are a 3 needle bind off. Now the back does have this little detail here with a button and a little placket to just give a little bit more ease for that giant baby head to fit through the top of the sweater. As far as buttons go, and I truly feel like putting buttons on projects is a completely separate hobby and project in and of itself, but I used a vintage button from a collection of buttons I inherited from my mother, and I think this color looks really cute. And I do prefer shank style buttons, and I can show that here. It's a shank style button. I prefer those for baby knits so that the yarn doesn't have a chance of coming loose on the front. There is the Macaroon sweater, and then because it's kind of long sleeves, you know, mom and dad can always cuff the sleeves up if they're too long, or if they want them to be even kind of shorter to keep baby's dirty hands out of it. But it does give that flexibility option too. Overall, had I just worked on this and nothing else, I could have probably had this pattern done in a week. It is very fast to knit up, and again, simple garter stitch, just back and forth, and really easy to seam up. And because it's such a tiny size, obviously, it's not going to take too much time. So I also wanted to do some hat and socks to go with the sweater, and I spent quite a bit of time looking for hat patterns, and I wanted something that doesn't necessarily match, but I wanted something that kind of went with this. And what I ended up choosing was the Barley Hat by Tin Can Knits, and this is also a free pattern. You can get it on their website, on Ravelry, or if you have the Tin Can Knits app, it's in there as well. But it's a free pattern, and it's just a simple little stockinette hat, but it has this garter ridge panel on it, and I thought that looked really cute and paired well and complemented the garter stitch in the sweater. I used the leftovers from the sweater to make the hat. Now, I did have 2 skeins of this green that I dyed, but plenty of leftovers, even with making the hat and the socks. And because this hat has this garter panel, it does have plenty of stretch. Like, I could probably fit this on my head if I had to. So lots of room for baby's little noggin to grow into this hat. And then we have the socks, and these are just too adorable. What is it about a tiny little sock that is just like the cutest thing ever? So for these, I didn't really use a pattern for these. I kind of went on Ravelry and looked through various baby sock patterns just to get an idea of what the cast-ons should be. But what I ended up choosing to do is these are knit on size US 4 needles, which is much larger than I would normally use for a DK weight yarn. But because it's for a baby, I wanted it to have maybe a little bit of extra ease in it for their chunky little feet. So I ended up casting on 32 stitches. I did a 2x2 rib here for 16 rows. And then I did 16 rows of stockinette for the leg, a little tiny shadow wrap heel, which took no time at all. And then I did 16 more rows for the foot, a wedge toe, and then kitchenered it together. Now, they could obviously be worn like this, right, without the cuff down, but I just think they looked so cute with the little cuff. I knew I wanted to make a blanket for the baby as well, but given my procrastination and slowness as a knitter, I decided to weave a blanket, and this is the finished blanket, and I really love how this turned out. The sizing is about 30-ish inches by about 48 or so inches, which I think is a good stroller size, or even if they just want to put it on the floor and have tummy time on it, I think that's plenty of width and length for this blanket. It's a good size for that. So the draft that I used, I'm trying to show it here. This draft was challenging to say the least. It's from the Baby Blankets book by Tom Knisley, who I learned to knit from at Redstone Glen. It uses 4 different colors of 8/4 cotton, which is effectively like a fingering weight. And it's this kind of like ripply pattern. It's a twill draft, and I just think it turned out so pretty in the colors that Mom chose. Now, this blanket isn't perfect. It very much has some mistakes in it. I'm not a master weaver by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think baby's gonna care. I don't think he's gonna mind that there's a couple weaving mistakes in it. You can see one right there where I missed a treadling pattern, so it repeated incorrectly, but I don't think that matters. It adds to the charm of a hand-woven blanket, in my opinion. Like I said, this was probably the most challenging thing I've ever woven since I've been weaving. The draft was pretty complicated as far as the heddle threading goes, and there are places in here where I made mistakes. But again, just given the nature of it and how many colors there are, they're not super obvious. And one thing that I learned while making this is how to have a smoother hem, rolled hem seam. So it's always good to learn new techniques in our making. One thing I like to give for baby showers is a book. And because I wove this baby blanket using Tom's pattern, I chose to give them this book that Tom authored, which is called The Weaver's Surprise. And it's all about a little family of mice who live in this weaver's shop. And I just thought that was a cute idea to give with the blanket, have the book, and then hopefully they get much enjoyment reading this while snuggled up under the blanket. The illustrations in this book were done by Megan Lloyd, and look how beautiful these are. Like, this is artwork in a book. Hopefully this gave you some good ideas on some quick and easy baby knit patterns that you can make for the baby shower that sneaks up on you too. I'll be going down now to get these all wrapped up for the baby. I really hope mom and dad enjoy having some really functional things that they can use that are also soft and cozy and were made with love. I'll see you here next time. Until then, happy making!